Warami Mitiga, Mudra Wunya, Yugunaya Awabakal Ngurrawa. Hello friend, good to see you. Today I'm on Awabakal country. I'm down here in the four-wheel drive playground at Freeman's Waterhole on the lower Lake Macquarie area. And I'm joined here again with Nathan. We're going to talk to you guys today about the top 5 things, in our opinions, that you should always carry when you're heading off-road. So Nathan, I'm sure you've got your list of stuff ready to go.
I've got a couple of things.
Yeah. And I've actually sat down and taken notes and written up a list. Nathan doesn't do that, but I do. So we'll get started on the 5th thing that you should always carry in your four-wheel drive before heading off-road. Now for me, number 5 is water and oil. Now why do I say water and oil? Well, it's Australia. It gets bloody hot and we all get thirsty. The reason I add oil into that is, well, who knows, you might happen to have an issue where you need to throw some oil in your car. I have previously had an issue out at Ourimbah State Forest where my car was overheating, and simply having that water there, even though I've got it in the fridge all the time, having extra water there allowed me to top up the radiator in the car and get me out of the place safely without cooking my motor. I didn't realise we were running a little bit low on the water side, and unfortunately crap happened and it got hot. So that additional water in the car just came in really handy for me to be able to top up the radiator. You're out in the bush, it's not hard to get a stick or something like that, pop up and pierce a radiator hose or whatever it might be. So having some extra water in your car, definitely something that I think you should have. And that's my number 5. What about you, Nath?
Well, mine's a bit different. It's not something I carry in the car. It's a bit of prior planning. Knowing what your vehicle's capable of, what yourself is capable of, where you're going, what you're going to do, telling people where you're going.
What sort of track conditions you're going to be expecting. And
weather, all that plays into it.
Yep.
Just like we were talking about earlier, a bit of common sense.
Yep.
Don't go like there's stupid tracks around here that people have been ripping up. Don't go on them if you're not confident. Your car's not confident, you might damage your sump, then you don't go nowhere.
Yep, exactly.
Don't go out by yourself. Always have somebody there with you that can help you get you home.
If you are heading out on your own, at least know your capabilities and your abilities, and make sure you've got some form of communication in that sense too. As you guys know, I generally go on my own anyway. Most of my camping trips and that are on my own. I've been out a few times with Nathan and whatnot, and even when I am out on my own, I'll look at a track and if I'm not 100% sure on it, I won't tackle it. It's that simple. I'll turn around and I'll come back. And my number 4 for things that you should always carry in your 4B when heading off-road is a tyre deflator and a compressor. Now the reason I've put these down so low, it's not hard to pick up a stick off the ground or something like that to let your tyres down, and you can generally limp back to a servo somewhere if you're not too far away and put some air in. But it's something that makes a world of difference, and you'll always hear me banging on about letting your tyres down when you go off-road. In saying that, we haven't let our tyres down here today because we're only a short distance in and we're not doing much. We're just here to film, we're not actually wheeling. But generally I'll bang on about letting your tyres down all the time. So a tyre deflator and a compressor, although it's not an essential piece of kit that you should have in your car when off-road, it's something that you should pretty well always carry. And if you can afford to grab one, do so. Even if it's a cheap tyre deflator and that from BCF or super cheap or something like that.
I like recovery gear. You know, you get stuck, you're out with a friend, a rope to drag you out.
Yep. And
something to get you out.
A snatch strap's not all that expensive either.
No, what are they now? Like $50 for a snatch strap.
Exactly. And it comes with a couple of bow shackles. And even if you don't have one, you're heading out with a couple of mates or something, make sure at least one of them have got one.
And if you've got mates that do a bit of wheeling, borrow one if you're going out somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure someone's got something like that.
It's really one of the first things, other than the UHF radio, it's one of the first things I put in this car was a snatch strap. Just basic recovery gear, be it snatch strap or max
tracks, like I said, a rope.
Lots of different things.
Shovel.
Yep.
Maybe a handsaw to get you out of a bit of trouble. You might need to chop down a bit of a tree to get through on the way out.
Or even to put under your tyres or something to lift you up and get you out of a spot. On that note as well, you had to do something that I haven't had to do with your car. You've had to go and buy rated recovery points, haven't you?
I have.
With the Pajeros, we've got 2 large loops at the front. I believe a lot of the Prados do this as well. I'm not 100% sure, but there's 2 really large, thick metal loops at the front that you can see on screen now. And they are, according to Mitsubishi, recovery points. They're not just a tie-down point like a lot of people say. Whereas with Nathan's Navara, all he had on the front are tie-down points, not official recovery points. So he's had to go out and buy proper ones. Number 3 for my essentials to carry off-road is a shovel. You know, so many times if you're out on the beach, you can dig out in front of you if you get stuck there. If you're out in the bush, same deal. You can dig it out. You can use it for track building, things like that. A shovel is something that can be really handy. And look, as Nathan said earlier, you need a crap while you're out there. Go dig a hole and bury it.
You need the bog roll with you too.
Yeah.
Shovel, bog roll.
The bog roll is something that always comes in handy too. But yeah, a shovel out in the bush. You see mine always on top of the car. A shovel out in the bush is something that can really help you when it comes to track building and even just to take a dump. Nath, what's your number 3?
Number 3. I haven't thought that far in. My number 3 would be means of communications. Phone's good for using maps.
Yep.
A radio, UHF, talk to your friends, and let people know where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as you
roughly
said before,
where you're going, when you're coming home. If you do get stuck by yourself, you get bogged or something happens, like you were talking about earlier, a stick flies up, punches the radiator, you could be dead in the water. Or coming down from the Wattigans once, I seen a couple of young kids come down way too fast, bottomed out, ripped the sump out. It was funny, there was a huge trail and there was a dead car at the end of it.
Ah, lovely. And unfortunately, it's not a hard thing to happen, especially if you don't have proper underbody protection, like I don't.
So, a lot of us don't, take it easy, but again, that comes back to number 1, knowing what your car's capable of, knowing your own capabilities,
yep.
And your communication, if you do get into trouble, being able to get help.
Yep.
Let people know that you're in trouble.
No,
so that they can organise someone to come and help you.
If you've watched the top 5 upgrades and modifications video that I did a while back with Nathan, you'll notice that my number 1 in there was the UHF radio, because I believe that is an essential piece of equipment to carry when you're off-road. My number 2 follows on from my number 3 with the shovel, and it is, as Nathan has said before, recovery gear. The shovel can be used, as I mentioned, to dig out holes and bogs and whatnot when you've been stuck. It can help with track building and things like that. But again, with your snatch straps, your bow shackles, your rated recovery points, your recovery boards like your max tracks or treads or whatever you want to go, things like that. And in that sense as well, even a decent bottle jack, or if your vehicle's capable of carrying it, a high lift jack. Because if you get into a situation where we cop this quite a bit without lockers and that, you articulate and you just sit there and spin your tyres. At least with a high lift jack or something, or a decent jack, you can lift that wheel up higher and you can pack underneath it. And I've actually had to do this before out at Morisset Ward 21, where I've had to jack the back wheel up because I wasn't getting enough traction and I'd actually gone over the slip and got a bit stuck. But I managed to jack the back wheel up, put a whole bunch of rocks in that underneath it, and I was able to reverse back out because I now had both my back wheels on the ground. So recovery gear is something that if you're heading out, even if you are heading out solo, make sure you've got it, because if you can call for help from somebody else and they don't have recovery gear, you're still up shit creek. What's your number 2, Nate?
Water. Water. I know you talked about it earlier.
Yep.
But water, like we were saying, you get stuck. Food, you can go, I think it's 4 or 5 days at least without food.
I think you can do about a week or something without food, but you can only do 3 days without water.
Yep. You need water.
Yeah.
You need to have water in the vehicle, enough water to keep you going for a couple of days.
Yep. Now, some people might bag me out for this, but in my fridge in the back of the car, I don't keep beer in it. I keep water in it. I've got small, about 350ml water bottles in there, and there's always at least half a dozen in there. And coming out to do decent trip, if I know I'm going to be doing some harder forward driving or something like that, I'll throw a 10 litre water bottle in so that if something does happen to the radiator, maybe not mine, maybe Nathan's or somebody else's, I can give them a bit of water to top back up. How many cars do you see broken down on the side of the road that have overheated because they don't have enough water? Even simply just travelling to and from your location, you might be able to help somebody else out with that water that you've got there. So, always a great thing to keep on hand. All right, now here we are. My number one. To me, the most important thing you should have with you when you're heading off-road. And I'm probably beating a dead horse with this because I've said it before. UHF radio. My opinion, your UHF radio, even be it an in-car or a handheld, is your most important thing when off-road because you can be spotting people. If you get stuck, you can call for help. In areas that your mobile phone signal doesn't work, the UHF radio may still be able to contact somebody to come and help you, to get you out of trouble. That's why quite often when you see me doing a bigger bushwalk, I'll have one on my pack as well. Because if something happens to me, I can call for help out on the bush, out on the trails. A UHF radio for me is an absolute godsend and an absolute lifesaver. And even the cheap Kmart ones are good for spotting and close quarters convoys. But if you're going to go and get one in your car, spend the money, get something decent, I'll always recommend GME. Even though I'm not sponsored, I'll always recommend GME products because I have no problems with them and I think they've been great. Nathan, your number one,
Well, my number one, doesn't matter what sort of vehicle it is, whether it's just your little buzz box for running to from work, pick the kids up, full driving, whatever, first aid. If somebody hurts themselves, you've got to be able to stop the bleeding,
yep,
bandage them up and get them to hospital.
And again, even if it's not off-road, it could be anywhere.
Anywhere.
Just a small cut, you throw a Band-Aid on there, a bit of antiseptic, get a leech. Like Nathan saw me covered in them not too long ago.
Yeah, first aid for me is, it doesn't matter, like you said, you go hiking a fair bit,
yep,
take the first aid. Even in your first aid kit should be essentials like matches.
Yep.
Not a cigarette lighter, matches. Means to start a fire if you get stuck somewhere. Bandages, snake bite, splint, all that sort of stuff.
Now, you guys have seen Jerry and I do a video previously about my first aid kit and Jerry's survival kit, which incorporates a bit of both. What I didn't mention when I did my first aid kit is that I do also carry another pouch, which has got all my things. When I'm doing a hike and that, I'll carry another little pouch, which has got things like the firelighters, flint and steel, all that sort of stuff, lighters, matches. It's also got a compass with a mirror on it, whistles, this, that and everything. So that's my little survival pouch as well, which I haven't really done a video on that, but it's something, as Nathan's mentioning, something always comes in handy, or can come in very handy.
Yeah. Just get the cheap little one in every car.
Yep.
And another thing that goes along with first aid, I think every vehicle should also have a fire extinguisher.
That's also another good thing.
I know.
Especially if you're like me and have done a lot, or both of us really, and done a lot of the electrical wiring yourself. It may not be up to par. So yeah, fire extinguisher is also something that should be in there.
Like, I come from out at Dubbo. I remember going to TAFE one morning and one of the boys was very late. He was following a police car, and in front of them, a young bloke had an accident. Car caught on fire. The police officers ran out, tried to put the fire out. Unfortunately, they only had one little fire extinguisher, flagging other cars over. No one else had a fire extinguisher.
Especially in a four-wheel drive, we give our cars quite a lot when we are actually pushing them. I don't push them all that much, as you know, but we do still give our cars quite a lot, and a fire extinguisher is a really good option.
Doesn't take much you've got grass.
Yeah, that's right.
Get caught underneath, leaves.
Get caught up in your DPF or something.
Got DPFs that are running at stupid hot temperatures nowadays. Doesn't take much to even set off a little grass fire.
And as much as I don't watch four-wheel drive 24/7, I still get them pop up in my YouTube feed. And look at Shauno with his, I think it was the 80 series recently. His 80 series caught on fire. Fire extinguisher was right there. There was also another one a while back where the back end of a Ranger caught on fire. Again, that fire extinguisher right there. easy to access, easy to put the fire out. It can happen so easily. And
Doesn't
these
take
are vehicles that have supposedly got professionals working on them.
It doesn't take much just to have a battery bouncing around in the back of the vehicle,
Yep.
short to
Cause a spark.
sell, and the whole thing just catches on fire, overheats.
Especially, I hear a lot more about lithium batteries catching on fire these days too. So.
Well, you're all going that way, but yeah, never mind.
Well, I'm going to cover that sort of stuff more in a later video. So make sure you're subscribed for that, because there will be another one coming up. Essentials that you should carry in any vehicle, not just your four-wheel drive. And that will, for me, that will include things like your first aid kit and fire extinguishers. So I'm going to give you a couple of little bonus ones on here. I don't know if Nathan's got any lined up for a bonus.
Not yet.
But a couple of little bonus ones, I think, that it takes nothing to keep in your vehicle. Pair of gloves and a bloody $2 roll of garbage bags from Coles or Woolies. You get out to a beautiful spot. I wouldn't call this a beautiful spot, but get out to a beautiful spot and it's full of rubbish, pair of gloves, a bloody garbage bag. Nathan and I have done it many times when we've just been out for a day's drive, cleaning up, and we're coming home with garbage bags full of crap that other people have left behind. Really, not a big thing, not an expensive thing, and it takes up no room in your vehicle. Gloves and garbage bags, guys. Throw them in your bloody car. Got any other things that you want to add as a bonus?
I think we should always clean up, take a couple more things out, bits of rubbish, because I love getting out in the bush. I love me fishing, camping.
Yeah, exactly.
Four-wheel driving, shooting, all that sort of stuff.
Speaking of fishing, we're going to have to take your boat out one of these days.
And it doesn't take much to clean it up.
Yep.
You know, it only takes a couple of bad apples to get us all locked out,
And that's right.
kicked out,
That's right.
and then we've got nowhere to go.
Yep. And look, guys, to be honest, when Mount Falk Road reopened here in the Watergan Mountains, I was talking with some forestry staff, and there's a lot of that sort of talk going on through forestry, not national park, through forestry, where they're getting sick of people just trashing the place. And there's serious talks about closing certain areas down. As you saw back in, I think it was March this year. Yeah, it was March this year. I went out and did Clean Up Australia Day. Part of that was organised by New South Wales Forestry Corp. So, you know, they're doing what they can to try and keep these areas clean. They've done an amazing job on Mount Falk Road to get that fixed after the landslides last year. And, you know, if people are just going to head in there and trash the place, they give it to us for nothing. We're not going to have it if you're just going to go out there and trash it. One other last little bonus that I want to add in, and I'm going to go for a quick walk before I do this one. Decent footwear, guys. Thongs are not suitable when you're going off-road. You might notice Nathan's got joggers on. I've got my hiking boots on. Matt over here's got his steel caps on. Thongs are not bloody suitable off-road. I've worn thongs out in the bush before. Back in the Pajero run, back from like 2018, one of my early videos, I wore thongs out to that and they broke in the first bog hole, so I was running around barefoot the entire day. You don't know what glass or crap or metal or whatever else is in these bog holes. Wear decent footwear, because at the end of the day, even climbing up on a muddy hill or something like that, decent footwear can really save your hide. So yeah, thongs are really not suitable when you're heading out in the bush. Alrighty, I'll pick that up again in a second. Alrighty guys, that's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you found it useful. Nave, thanks for coming along, mate.
Thanks for having us.
And doing this with me again. Alright guys, as I mentioned, there's more coming. There will be a top 5 essentials to always keep in your vehicle video coming along. I'm not too sure when that will come, but that's yet to be filmed. So make sure you're subscribed. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you hit a like. Drop a comment in the bottom there and let us know what you think, what your top 5 things that you should carry in your 4B should be. Alright guys, again, thanks for watching. Yanma Bujadi Murugu. Walk a good path. Yano, goodbye. There we go.
How was that?
Done. I often have notes.
What's this?
Hotline.
For fuck's sake.
Hello. We'll get filming in an hour.
Behind the scenes look at
Mick's full
rule number one before you start filming, make sure you turn the phone off.
Mine's always on. I just ignore it.
full broad touring, something like that.